What's He Got Down There? Written by Ren Bryant. What's he got down there, Jim? He keeps coming and going from that basement. What do you think he's got down there? Everyone else is at church, but this guy, he keeps going up and down to his basement. Why? Jim shook his head. He didn't know either. Jim and me were the head of the neighborhood block watch. We know everyone up and down Hyacinth Lane. We made it our business to know. We like shaking hands and making sure everyone knows we're keeping an eye on things. It was Sunday, and while most of the block was at church, Jim and I were on a bit of a stakeout. We were looking through binoculars from my front room window to the house across the street. We had a weird one that moved in recently, and we didn't like what we had seen. Our new neighbor was this skinny Greek guy. He worked in IT, and he looked the part, balding and awkward. He had these beady eyes, a smushed face, and a crooked smile. Just a strange, weird guy. You could say he was introverted, but it went beyond that. I could feel it. My biggest concern was our children. This new guy seemed to really like children. He'd talk to them, say hello, ask questions. He said his family's coming soon, after the school year, and he's got 2 kids who they know they'll love to play with. Who asks questions and is friendly like that with kids? What type of adult man talks to children like that? No, a man should carry a beer and tend to a barbecue, not talk to children. He'd open his garage and pull out his blue Harley. The kids would stare and think he's some cool James Dean type. Let me tell you, that was not this guy. He was the exact opposite of cool, if you ask me. Oh, and here's another example. He recently got a tattoo that he showed off to the kids too. A fairy tattoo on his chest. Yeah, a fairy for a man. He seemed to want to impress the kids. I don't know about you, but on this block, that sort of behavior raises all sorts of red flags, especially with Jim and myself. Jim, what's he doing down there? Why does he keep going up and down to that basement? Why isn't he at church like all the rest of the neighbors? Look at that, Jim says. What's he carrying? I grab the binocs and take a closer look. Up and down this Greek guy goes, carrying some sort of metal boxes. They've got writing on it, but I don't understand. Maybe Greek? And now he's bringing down dirt. Bags and bags of dirt. What the heck is he doing down there? Jim picks up the phone and says he's calling the cops. I tell him, wait. We ain't got nothing yet, I tell him. Besides, it's not illegal to be carrying dirt and boxes into your basement. Yeah, Jim says, but maybe he's growing weed down there. Why else is he bringing dirt? Yeah, that's a good point, I say, but we got no proof. Let's keep watch. If he's a drug dealer, that could explain the Harley and the tattoo. But we'll see a lot of people coming and going if he's dealing. A drug dealer on the street. What's this neighborhood coming to? I would have never imagined. Foreigners and outsiders coming in and changing things. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. This used to be a good Irish Catholic neighborhood. We all knew each other's names and got along. We had 4th of July parties, invited each other over for Sunday after church brunch. But I guess that went out the window with the Obama administration. The family comes home and Jim and I put away the binoculars and stop our watch. We can't have the family knowing what potentially is going on. The kids chatting with Mr. Cool Greek Harley tattoo guy is one thing, but chatting with Mr. Drug Dealer is another. Later, I head out doing some yard work when I see our Greek friend rolling his Harley out of the garage. I decide it's time to go over and chat it up, maybe get some intel. I casually stroll by on the sidewalk and tell Lucas, that's our Greek neighbor's name, nice bike. Some kids ride past on their bicycles and say the same thing. I walk into his driveway and stick out my hand to give him a nice, firm, manly handshake, but I get a limp wrist in return. With his Greek accent, he tells me thanks, and he asks me if I ever ride. I say no, I got no interest. In the corner of my eye, I see some dirt bags resting against the side of the house, and I ask, "Are you doing some gardening there?" I point my chin to the bags of dirt. "No, my family's coming soon," he says, "so I'm getting things ready for them." I squint, sizing him up. That answer didn't make much sense. Dirt? For the family? "Gardeners, huh?" I say. "Something like that," he says back. Jim and I kept our eye out for a while. The best we could tell, Lucas wasn't a drug dealer. We didn't see people coming and going like we thought we would. But we kept seeing him bring that dirt into the house. It was strange for sure, but strange isn't illegal. And the HOA didn't have regulations on what people do inside their homes. Not really, anyways. Certainly nothing about dirt inside your house. No one would have ever thought of that. Jim says maybe it's a grow house. He said he read about this sort of thing on Red Nation and some other websites he visited. In that liberal paradise of California, he said, they're having big issues with cartels turning residential homes into dope grow houses. "The Greeks got cartels too," Jim says. "What else could it be? Why dirt?" In early June, a woman and 2 kids show up at Lucas's house. His family. They showed up just after school ended, just like he said. His wife was a real good-looking lady, skinny with olive complexion, long straight black hair, a gentle smile with some cute dimples, a real Greek babe if I do say so. I don't think my wife would disagree with me. His kids seemed all right too, respectful boys as far as I could tell, and they looked about the same age as my boys too, around 8 and 10. But I don't talk to the kids like Lucas does. They seem to integrate fairly quickly. Well, the kids did anyways. They all chatted and talked it up with the neighborhood kids, and before I know it, they're all playing kickball in the street. Maybe this guy was legit after all. Maybe Lucas was just trying to cement his place in the community, finding out about the kids so his children would be hanging out with other kids he knew were good. I mean, he's done nothing so far to cause any real issues. Sure, he talks to the kids that brings that dirt into the house, but so what? He seems like a good neighbor. Maybe I was wrong about him. Though other than the kids, Lucas and his wife were a bit of neighborhood oddballs. They didn't fit in like their kids did, but I guess that's how it is with adults most of the time. Lucas seemed to be trying too hard, if you know what I mean. And his wife? Well, we never saw her. I mean, sometimes we'd see her behind windows, but never outside. Maybe once or twice if I'm being generous, but other than that, I don't recall. Jim wanted to keep up our watch on this guy, since we still saw Lucas doing his thing, going up and down the stairs of the basement with that dirt. Jim said he didn't trust the guy. He's not like us, he said. Whatever that means. I tell him, hey, let's cool it. The kids seem to play together nicely, so why don't we give this guy a break? He's probably just a weird IT guy. My wife Jessie, she says we should invite them over for family dinner. Says it'd be a neighborly thing to do. And what Jessie wants, well, Jessie gets, so dinner it is. After a Sunday evening feast of roast beef, mashed potatoes, corn, and apple pie, the parents all settle in on a front porch while the kids run off playing. Lucas and his wife, Iris, they sit together on the swing, while Jessie and I take the wicker chairs. The conversation isn't the most natural, but from the sounds of it, the kids are running outside, playing and having fun, and that gave us something to chat about. It's great they play so well together, Jessie says. Yes, it is, Iris responds. It goes like that for the rest of the evening, all the way to sundown. One line, another. Not much flow. Like I said, it wasn't the most natural conversation. And then it's silent. I mean, really silent. We no longer hear the kids. In fact, I'm not sure when we last heard them. I had tuned out that racket after a while. It wasn't until Jesse started asking what happened to him that we paid any attention. "I thought I saw them go into your house," Jesse says to Lucas and his wife. Lucas flashes a worried look into Iris's direction. Then he says, "No, I don't think they would go play in there. There doesn't seem to be anything that our kids could play with, not by themselves anyways. And my kids like to play outside." "No, I saw them," Jesse insists. "They went through your front door. That was quite a while ago. That was the last time I had seen them." Iris grabs Lucas's hand and gives a squeeze. Lucas clears his throat, but he doesn't say anything. I look over to their place and it's dark. No lights are on, except in that basement of theirs. I feel Jim nagging me inside my head, telling me they're probably showing your kids some pot plants or dealing dope right now. They're from the Greek cartel, I tell you. Jesse stands and starts shouting our kids' names, waiting for a response but not getting anything. "I see your basement light is on," I say to both of them with concern and suspicion. Figuring Jim is right. We need to find out what's going on down there. My kids are missing, and they were last seen with this weirdo's kids. And his basement light is on. It's all too connected if you ask me. I wanted answers. "What's down there, Lucas?" "I seen you coming and going from your basement." "Anything the kids could be messing with down there?" I ask. Lucas shakes his head, panicked. "They wouldn't be down there," he says, ignoring my question. Then he shouts out his kids' names as Jesse shouts out for our kids. Except his shouts seem forced, like in our conversation, like he's not really that concerned about them. There's still no response from the kids, and I can see Jesse's really worried. Her eyes are starting to tear up and her forehead gets wrinkled like it does. It's not like our kids to wander off. This is a safe neighborhood. They've been running around here since they were able to walk, and no problem. Now, this stranger arrives and they go missing? I get up and grab Jesse by the hand. "Come on," I say, "let's go check it out." As we cut across our front lawn and march towards our Greek neighbor's house, Lucas comes from behind and grabs my arm. "Why don't we check around back?" he says. "Let's check outside first. I don't think they're in my house. There's nothing in there for them to play with." Jessie jumps in. She says they've been calling and nothing. And she swore she saw them going into Lucas's house. I see Iris out of the corner of my eye at one of the street lights that just turned on. She's trying to sneak back into her house. Lucas is a distraction. "Come on," I say, tugging Jesse's hand, and we run off towards our neighbor's house. Lucas sprints ahead of us. "Jim! Jim!" I shout across the street. "Jim! We got him! Come on out!" By the time we make it to Lucas's porch, his wife is already inside. Their door is wide open, and Lucas uses his body to block us from entering. "Please, there's nothing in here. Your kids are not here," he says. "Leave us in peace." Jesse starts shouting for our kids again, screaming past Lucas's shoulder. "You got something down in your basement, and you don't want us to know about it," I say, pushing my index finger into Lucas's chest. "Stand aside." He stands firm, holding the door frame and not letting us pass. "Stand aside," I say again. Still, Lucas doesn't budge. I turn as if I'm going to walk away, then ram him. A hit to his midsection, a perfect football tackle. Lucas wasn't ready for it, and we tumble to the floor. Jesse jumps over our bodies and runs into the house, screaming our kid's name. Iris comes from the basement and they get into it. It's a cat fight. They're yanking at each other's hair, screaming and tussling as I'm trying to get up while Lucas grabs at my legs, holding me. I give him a swift kick to shake him loose, and I grab Iris around her petite waist, pulling her off my wife. And then I grab her hand and we run down to the basement. We stop short on the last step, and from behind the Greeks wrap us in a bear hug. Lucas has me, Iris has Jesse. We don't struggle or fight their embrace. We're in shock at the sight of something so repulsive and bizarre that it short-circuits our brains. Neither Jesse nor I can say a word. Our jaws hang open in disbelief. I wish it was a pot farm in that basement. Pot I can explain. Pot I can understand. But before us, in this basement, is a floor of dirt. It smells like a farm. The dirt is deep enough that our children are buried up to their necks, and their mouths are covered with some sort of webbing, preventing them from crying out. I can see the terror in their eyeballs. It's the same one that Jesse and I have on our face. Next to our buried children are two child-sized mole lizard people. Bizarre wouldn't even begin to describe it. Their faces are salamander-like, with little beady black dots for eyes and a reptilian slit for a mouth. Their skin is slimy and ringed like an earthworm, but with legs and arms and sharp claws. Claws that are digging through the dirt. They're digging 2 more holes next to my children. 2 holes for Mom and Dad, apparently. "Welcome to our home," Lucas says, still holding me tight from behind. "We were supposed to wait, but I guess our children got impatient," he says. "I wish it wouldn't have gone this way, but the results will be the same no matter what." I shake my head and regain my composure, enough to speak. "Result, I say? What in the hell is this? What in the hell are you talking about? What are you people?" Jessie starts to sob. "Dear God," she pleads. "What are you doing to my children? You monsters!" Lucas shoves me into the dirt and Jessie follows. Their mole lizard children climb onto us. Their claws are razor sharp and poke at our skin, holding us down. Jessie lets out a scream of terror as the creatures lick her face with a forked tongue. Behind us, our children let out muffled cries. "Usually we wait until we have a better read of the neighborhood," Lucas says. He and his wife are disrobing as they talk, fearlessly exposing themselves to us. "We usually try to take the ones that people won't notice. The old man or the family that is going away on vacation. The ones people don't raise questions about when they go missing. The ones that could be chalked up to bizarre and unexplained accidents." Lucas and Iris's bodies begin to transform before our eyes. It's repulsive. Their human skin sheds away, exposing a newborn lizard worm skin underneath. Their hands and feet morph into claws, their heads into something reptilian and alien. "Fight, Jessie, fight!" I yell as I spring up and try to get away from the child reptilian creatures. As I move, their claws dig into me, forcing me to stay still. I see Jessie trying to fight with her captors. When she lets out a scream, they cut her good across her stomach as she tries to escape. "You bastards," I say, and I spit towards Lucas. "I knew there was something going on in your basement. I knew there was something weird about you." The now reptilian Lucas and his wife waddle over to me, flicking their tongues, chomping their mouths, looking hungry. They get within inches of my face and I turn my head to the side, trying to avoid getting whipped by their tongues. I see our kids continuing to make muffled screams, moving their heads all about, trying to do anything to help. But it's no use. They're trapped as can be in the dirt. The creature holding Jessie down spits out disgusting white goo that fills Jessie's mouth, making her gag. It's the webbing, the same one that covers my kids' mouths. They're making sure they can no longer hear their screaming and hollering. Then I feel something slimy and wet on my toes. Then excruciating pain, something sharp and hot. I lift my head to look down and I see the creature that was Iris with her mouth around my foot, her jaws chomping down. She's eating me. I scream in terror and try to kick her off, but it's no use. They got me pinned good with their claws. There's nothing I can do. I feel my mouth being filled with their goo. They're tired of hearing me scream as well. One of the creatures drags Jessie to her hole and drops her in feet first, burying her up to her neck. I can feel my toes being chomped off one by one. The disgusting creature flicks its tongue in delight after eating each one. The pain is too much and I start to lose consciousness. The room goes from bright to dark as I slip in and out. I see the other creatures starting to open their mouths wide to eat my family. We're done for. The last thing I saw before darkness consumed my vision was a creature about to bite my wife's head. Then I heard a loud bang. A shot. A gunshot. I shook my head and came to, and I saw Jim with his Remington 12 gauge blasting those creatures to smithereens. Their slimy, scaly bodies were blown apart. A claw here, a jaw there. Jim unloaded all he got into them and kept shooting well beyond dead. The air smelled of metallic sulfur. My ears were ringing and my toeless foot was throbbing. But we were alive. I looked at my family and thanked God we were alive. I told you, Jim's yelling to me over the sound of his buckshot. I told you they weren't right. Damn foreigners!